Hello, welcome back to the Intuitively Led podcast. I am your host, Julie Chandler, bringing all of that intuitive goodness as a psychic intuitive tarot reader who combines all of this knowledge with business energy. I am so excited to talk today about 5 signs your intuition is talking to you. So, this is super, super important for your business because your intuition is communicating with you in its personal language all day, every day. And I want you to know that language, understand that language, translate that language, and take action on that language. So, this is super important for your personal life and for your business life as well. Intuition will talk to you across all areas, all bits and pieces. And that's why I'm so excited to go into today, defining what intuition is, going over a couple of the ways that intuition can be communicating with you, as well as sharing some stories with you about how this occurs, which is fantastic. So let's get into it with regards to defining intuition. So if you guys have listened to the podcast before or have worked with me before, you know that I talk about intuition in a sense of energy. I also talk about intuition in a sense of connecting to your angels and guides, connecting to the universe, connecting to spirit, to your spirit team. Now, take it in whatever way resonates for you, because in all honesty, in my belief, my experience, it's all the same thing. Whether you want to see it as a full communication with your angel, or whether you want to see it as sensing and picking up and interpreting energy, it all works in the same way. I use the language and interchange that language as and when I feel like it, because it just depends on the way that I receive information and how I pick up information when it comes to me translating my intuition. Now, one of the things that I can say, having had experience teaching people to tap into their intuition, teaching people to tap into their intuition in their business, understanding energy and teaching energy across many different modalities, I can tell you that intuition shows up individually for every single one of you. And I will repeat that until I am blue in the face. Okay. So intuition is essentially just understanding energy and translating it. So energy is happening to you at all times, but you won't realize it's intuition until you acknowledge that that's a sign, a symbol, a message, that it is the way the universe is communicating with you. And to do that, you need to become more aware. Now, because intuition and energy shows up differently for every single one of you, it can be different for each of you and difficult for each of you to interpret or understand that certain things happening, going on, and the energy movement is actually energy or it is intuition. It can be difficult to pinpoint that. So when I say you need to become aware of it, it can take some time and it can take some practice. Overall, intuition or energy is working in your highest good. It is looking for the path of least resistance for you to get from point A to point B. I always talk about a alignment and a frequency freeway, so a trajectory of where you want to go. So if you have an intention and you tell the universe that you have an intention, you're going from point A to point B, and you need to align that frequency. So you're going up a frequency freeway so that that energy can come back to you. Now, when we're talking about working for our personal growth, when we're working with self-awareness and our highest good, when it comes to intuition, it doesn't have to be as flouncy as highest good, by the way. But when you're working for something that you want to achieve and you're putting that intention out to the world, the universe will send you messages, signs, symbols, feelings, sensations. It will send you all of those to remind you to keep on that path. It will direct you on that path. It will open new doorways you hadn't expected and will nudge you towards those. But if you're not aware of them, you end up being caught in what I call pivot ripples. Anything that takes you off of that frequency freeway is a pivot ripple. It turns your head and it knocks you off of your frequency freeway as a pivot, as a ripple would. So really and truly, we're looking out for intuition so that we can stay aligned with where we want to go, with what we want to do, with what we want to achieve, what we want to bring into the world. So that's why intuition is so important. It isn't always just about a warning or a avoid this. Sometimes it's we can get from A to B much quicker. Just listen to this nudge. And that's the beauty of working with intuition and the beauty of working with the subtleties of intuition. So everybody, as I say, often when you start working with intuition or think that you are intuitive, it's often a very big, flashy warning sign of don't do this or don't go here. And you hear lots of grand stories about people who, like as a massive grand story, people who purposely woke up late or followed their intuition and went somewhere else instead of going to work for 9/11, as example. You hear these kind of stories of people not getting on flights and missing their flight and, or being late. And then there was a pile up on the motorway, all of this kind of stuff. Those are massive signs from intuition. But generally, 95%, if not more, of your intuition is going to be very subtle, is going to be very, very, very slight. And that's the intuition that you really want to know and really want to understand, because you're going to hear the big intuitions. You're going to hear them because the universe is forcing you to hear them. But on a general day-to-day basis, the energy isn't so high. The frequency isn't at that level. So the smaller, subtle pieces of energy that you are picking up are helping you move along from A to B on that frequency freeway. And it's trying to keep you in alignment with that. Now, as I've said multiple times before, there are many ways that it can do that. There are 4 main ones that I like to work with. And one of them is essentially, it is a feeling. It's a physical feeling. So we'll start with that. Sign number 1, if you get a gut feeling and you're like, I can feel it in my gut, I don't know what it is. Now that feeling can get confused with anxiety. So being aware of that and making sure that you can differentiate between your gut feeling and anxiety. But for some people, it feels like butterflies in their stomach rather than that dread, which is more anxiety led. But just being aware of it. Now, maybe it doesn't feel like a sensation, but maybe it actually affects your digestive system, right? So maybe you are feeling more gassy one day and you're like, I haven't eaten or drunk anything that should make me feel like this, because the physical body can be affected by the energetic systems. So when the energy body is in play, and so if your gut feeling is one of your strongest, it can then have an effect on that region in your body. So being aware of that, noticing these things, basically noticing anything that comes up and manifests in your physical body, also for me comes under the feeling. So it's not always just in your gut. It can be through your whole body. So being aware of that, noticing when you have hunched up shoulders or an achy back or stomach ache, or your feet hurt, for example. Your feet hurting, as an example, can be a sign that you're not actually grounded. I did a reading recently for a friend. We did a swap, which was so much fun. And one of the things that came up for her when I noticed in my body to read her energy was that her foot wasn't, well, my foot physically was not sitting flat on the floor, and I was drawn very much to it. So when I was addressing it and saying, your foot's not on the floor, you're not grounded, it made total sense to her, because there had been stuff where she didn't feel necessarily grounded, and there had been physical issues with the foot as well. So it can show in different ways. So things in the lower extremities, your feet, your ankles, etc., often linked to being grounded. Sometimes we get headaches when we're too in our own head. We're overthinking. That's that air element at the top of our bodies. There's different ways that things can show up. If we're carrying a lot of weight, if we're carrying a lot of stress, this can be the upper back and the shoulders. These kind of things are signs that come through. But again, if shoulders and carrying weight doesn't make sense to you, it may mean that you've actually got a different sign for your shoulders. That might just be my sign personally. It's a typical sign, I'll be honest, but everybody has different signs and different feelings. Just being aware of this. So noting, maybe taking a journal time, 2-3 minutes here and there, just to acknowledge what's happening in your body and noticing it, then acknowledging what that might mean for you, because it's how your intuition is talking to you, especially if you have a repeating thing. So this is really what I want to tell you with this like gut feeling or a feeling in your body and your sensations. When you have something that's repeating in your body, it is cyclical, so it's going round in cycles. Just acknowledging this is so powerful, because the universe will keep repeating this message for you until you kind of grasp it, and it will get worse. So physical sensations, the energy in that area can get worse and worse, causing more problems in that area if you don't acknowledge them and you are ignoring them. But looking for those repeating signs, because those are really, really important for you in terms of acknowledging that there is something to act on within that physical feeling. Excuse me. Okay, so synchronicities, talking here. So this is sign number 2, talking here about seeing like the repeating patterns. Synchronicity is 100%. It's not a glitch in the matrix. It is the universe talking to you. So for me, this can come up in so many different ways because it might not just be stuck to one sense. So there are the 4 main senses. There are the hearing, the seeing, the feeling, and the knowing, but synchronicities can transfer across all of them. Okay. So synchronicity as a sign can look like seeing things in the physical, repeating themselves. It can be hearing things over and over again, that same song repeating in your head. It can be that same physical sensation, those butterflies every time you walk into a certain room. Looking for synchronicities is that sign. You can think of it as that glitch in the matrix if you would like, but how are things synchronicity? How is synchronicity showing up in your life? How are things repeating themselves? How are things coming up in different situations? So is there something that's repeating itself, but then it doesn't repeat itself under certain circumstances? Having a little look at that. Now, the thing here that is so important is that you pay attention to them and trust that this is a meaningful thing. It isn't a coincidence. These synchronicities mean something, and it's up to you to establish what they mean. So you will need to start asking yourselves questions around what those synchronicities are. So when are they showing up? What are they? What color, what sound, what song, what lyric? What is the repeating thing? And then finding what that meaning is, how that is showing up in your life, what time of day. Is it in your dreams? Is it during your morning walk? When are these things coming up? When the synchronicity is also important. What that could mean to you, what's going on for you at that time that those synchronicities are coming up. What day is it? What time of the month is it? What time of the year is it? All of these things are important to establish what those synchronicities mean for you. So going back to the actual senses and the feelings, that inner voice. So you will have that, you just hear this pull to go in a different direction. Now, your sense of hearing could be that you are essentially hearing songs that are guiding you in a direction or in a way to feel things. You're hearing like yes a lot. So, if you're trying to make a decision and it's a yes, no, and you're hearing yes or you're hearing no a lot more than usual, it's really heightened. So it might be that you turn on the radio and the first word is yes, or you turn on the TV, the first word is no, like all of those things. Although that's not internal to you, it is still a part of your hearing. Now, the inner voice is that voice that you have inside your head, that dialogue. And it is that voice that can pop out of nowhere. Right. And that's one of the things that I love about the inner voice is that when we give ourselves space, so if there is something that we are working through, so if we put that in a business context, if we're working through a decision on when to make an offer, when to put out a new product, which product to create and what direction to go in your business, this inner voice can pop up out of nowhere. So if you've been thinking, and then all of a sudden you get this like direction and it's very different and it feels slightly different to your own voice. So it may sound like your voice, it may sound like you, it may be the usual inner dialogue that you hear, but it comes in very separately to what you'd been thinking of. And that inner voice is a beautiful thing, especially when you need to make decisions. Now, one of the things that I will say is it's highly important that you pay attention to this voice because it is being dropped in out of nowhere. This clarity, this aha moment comes in with this inner voice, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So keeping that in mind, it will help and guide you on your decision making. It will help open up doors that make you look at something slightly differently that, again, might get you from A to B on your frequency freeway much quicker. And that is what we want for you. And that's why we want to be intuitively led in our businesses. So to work with this, you can just ask for things, ask questions, try and get that voice to come in, but allowing that space so that it can fill in those gaps. If you're racing, if your mind is racing continuously, There isn't space for that inner voice to speak up. Sometimes she's quiet. I give this example all the time. Imagine your inner voice and your intuition as the quiet person, the quiet girl who is sitting in the corner of the boardroom, and there's all of these peacocks. They're all chads of the boardroom, CEOs, all of them. They're all discussing how important everything is, and it's, they're talking over each other, blah, 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 blah. She's not going to feel comfortable enough to stand up and say, excuse me, I've got a really great idea. But if everyone goes quiet for a minute, she might feel confident enough to step up and say, hi, I have an idea. And that's what we want for your inner voice. We want to give her that space and give her the platform to feel more confident to drop in and give you that wisdom that you need. Now, another one, this is much more about vision. Okay, so your third eye opening and all of that good stuff, but we'll keep it real simple here. If you have vivid dreams, this is a perfect example of your intuition talking to you. Now, one way that your dreams will be heightened is around moon cycles. Full moons and new moons are known for being very powerful, especially full moons. But again, that's different with everybody. They're really known for pulling in and heightening your intuition and your dreams. In your dream state, you will receive insight, messages, guidance through many different imageries. Now, this is something that's important to share because people think that it has to be like a specific encounter with a guide or, a real vivid image of something that makes total sense to them in the logical. Now, unfortunately, our dreams will talk to us, and the pieces that will remain with us don't always make sense in our day-to-day lives. So it is about using that imagery, again, in the same way I said about synchronicity. What is coming through in this dream? So first of all, just in the dream state, you want to look at things of like, are there vivid colors? Are there emotions? Are there situations? I often get tornadoes in my dreams, and it's often because I'm like scattered energy, and I can tell the difference of how stressed I am by one, how many tornadoes there are. So I'm talking like the twisters, right? How many there are, because I've had dreams where I can see many, many, many. Where I can see them from, I remember a dream vividly where I was in this high rise and I could see multiple like on the horizon, and I knew that they were coming towards me, but at that moment I was safe and it was fine. Which was in my life, I could then translate that to, I know that there is some stuff coming up that I have to do. It's all going to happen at once because that's just how life is sometimes. There was like a wedding coming up. There was a work event promotion thing that was potentially going on at the time. All of these things were coming up and they would culminate at the same time. But while I stood there and I could see them all, I didn't need to worry, is what that dream was translating to. But if there's like ones that are much closer, maybe some of them are near misses, really acknowledging that. Were they coming in the daytime? Were they coming at night? That's also important. Was there anything else in there? Was there elements? So like water, earth, sand, like all of these kind of things are important to note because they have their own meanings. All of the colors have their own meanings. So acknowledging all of these things is very important within your dream, because you might just have a dream where you're walking in a forest. But when I say to you, what was standing out to you? And you're like, well, the trees were really, really green. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like summer because, they're really fruitful and things are coming, it's coming to life. Like, and then it's like, is there any wildlife there? It's like, yeah, actually there was a couple of animals. It's like, okay, great. This is like, what does this animal mean? What is this? And then it kind of folds out a little bit more from, I was just walking through the forest in my dream, to there's a sign of something being really fruitful and coming to life. Okay. That's how you can kind of interpret these things. And it will be what matters to you and what stands out to you. It can take a little while to train yourself to remember these things. So I always say this, having a notepad under your pillow that you can write on without it being blue light from your phone or anything like that. If you wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning, just write keywords down that will trigger your memory in the morning. It's super powerful for helping you remember your dreams. Now, in terms of, so that's within the dream itself, but you can also get some interpretation on your dreams and the messages that you are receiving in terms of what's going on in your life at that time. So again, was this a nap that you had in the afternoon, or was this deep in the night that you had this dream? Was it at full moon? Was it at new moon? Where is the moon currently when you're having that dream? Having a look at where it is and what season it's in, what sign it's in, what house it's in, all of that good stuff can give you insight into what's going on. then looking at what's happening in your day-to-day life and what that dream and the symbology can be applied to. These are ways that dreams are talking to you. Sometimes when the universe really wants to talk to you, it's much easier to communicate via a dream because you're in a shutdown state. You're not in a place where your brain is overworking, overanalyzing, ignoring all of the signs. So this is something that you can really, really use to your advantage. So within that, we have covered your gut feelings. We have covered your inner voice. We have covered your dreams and vision. And the other one would be your knowing. And as I say, this is something that comes across within the synchronicities that we spoke about before. So your inner knowing is just this knowing sense. It is simple. It is really difficult to pinpoint, but it is one that you can work with. If you find, and again, I'm going to bring this back to synchronicities. If you find you knew something before it happened, especially within your business, so you knew that a client was going to do X, Y, and Z, or you knew that a post was going to perform a certain way, and you don't know why you knew that, I want you to keep note of these because it might be repeating, and it might be something that we can then really hone in on and acknowledge as something that is working for you. So most people have that inner knowing, the clear knowing is an energy that so many people do have. It's probably the most widely spread, that sounds really bad. It's probably the one that most people have. It's the sense that everybody can lean into, but because it's like not tangible, you can't pinpoint it to things, you just know stuff. It's really, really hard to train that. So I would always recommend training the others so that you can then enhance your knowing as well, because it's kind of like, you know, these things mean X, Y, and Z. It kind of like feeds into it. But you can, as I say, if there are things that you know about, journaling on them, writing them down, even if it's just on a post-it note, today I just knew this was going to happen and it happened. Having these examples that you can refer back to is so powerful, because you will then be able to tell yourself, look, I did know this. I can trust myself. When I know something, I know it. And that's where the beautiful steps come from that allow you to come back into alignment. So again, coming back to our frequency freeway, when you're manifesting something and creating something, going from your point A to point B, when you know, so you start trundling up your frequency freeway, heading towards point B, and you know that someone is going to come and deter you, and you know that it's going to pull you off course, and you're like, I know I should say no to this opportunity or this offer or this thing, and you follow it, you're going to get to your destination much quicker. If you ignore that knowing, you know that it's going to get you delays, and you know that it's going to waste money, and you know that it's a problem, but you're like, I'm going to do it anyway because they're a friend or they've done X, Y, and Z for me, I'm going to go in that direction. You know what's going to happen. And this is where it comes down to, how much do you want to go from A to B? How much do you want the thing that you say that you want? How much do you want to achieve? How much are you willing to say no to and trust in yourself and your intuition in going from A to B? And this is why it's so important to be intuitively led when it comes to manifesting, when it comes to the direction of your business, because there is energy flowing in every direction with your business. As I've always said, there are 4 main energy flows that are happening within your business at all times. Your business itself has an energy, so you will be able to tap into that and know what your business needs. You have energy, so your energy of what's going on with you, so your intuitive hits are direction and guidance for your business. Your clients are the other people's energy. Your clients have their own energies that you can tap into, that you can utilize, and you can take advantage of. In a positive way, because you're here to offer something, you're here to solve a problem, you're here to give them something that they need. So being able to tap into exactly what that frequency is and offer that is so, so powerful. And then you've got the U of BU, which the U is the universal energy. That universal energy is the energy that's going on all the time. So I want you to become intuitively led and start trusting your knowing, start trusting your visions, your synchronicities, so that you can really put them to work across those 4 frequencies in your business. And that's where you will start to see improvement and success and direction in the way that you want to go. And that's what's so important. I really do encourage you to look out for and pay attention to your intuition, how energy is communicating with you. Start seeing those synchronicities, those patterns, those images, and see how that works for you. If you are interested in learning how to tap into your intuition, you can now sign up for my Clear Connection course, which is available on my website. And it will take you through 11 steps, 11 days of connecting to your intuition. We cover the 4 main senses. So your hearing, your seeing, your knowing, and your feeling, as well as other bits and pieces. You'll connect your angels and guides in there. There is so much information in there of how to start working with energy and trusting it in a step-by-step, simple process that can be as little as 5 minutes a day for you. If you're interested in that, the link will be in the description below. Until next time, have a great day.